everybody. It is Tuesday, September 1st, and this is the 8th episode of the Hardcore Smarks. I'm your host, Zachary. And with me, as always, are these misfits. I got Wally, I got Stretch, and I got J-Bone. Guys, how are we doing?
Good.
Fantastic.
You took the 5 off, Wally?
Yeah, I didn't add it today. And then no one else can see it but us, so.
You could add you forgot the 2 on Stretch, the Stretch 2 times.
Stretch 2 times extra large. All right. Let's just get right into it. I guess we have no small talk in us today, so that's perfect.
You mean
all right.
You mean Eli Ellsworth?
I mean, hey.
Yeah. All right. So in this episode, we're going to have some fun. We're going to be ranking the GOATs pre-2010 in the wrestling business. So we each took some turns. We nominated some of our favorites. So we'll go through that right now real quick here. And then I'll go a bit further into how we're going to rank them. So I nominated personally here. I did Shawn Michaels, Dusty Rhodes, and Undertaker. Wally, who do you have?
The Rock, John Cena, and Triple H.
Good choices. Stretch.
Stone Cold Steve Austin, Hulk Hogan, and Bret the Hitman Hart.
Awesome. J-Bone, who are you nominating?
I got Ric Flair, Randy Savage, and Rob Van Dam.
Perfect. And coming in at lucky number 13, we have Jericho as our agreed-upon kind of common nomination for the whole group. So now what we're going to do is we're going to break these guys down in a couple categories. We're going to be talking about in-ring, mic skills, their look kind of, and their entrance, and then kind of a other miscellaneous flex category, kind of called like the intangible side of it. So we're going to each individually rank and then average out, and we'll see who comes where. In-ring is kind of the agreed-upon most important, so we've weighted that to 15, 1 to 15. Mic skills and look will be out of 10, and the flex intangible section will be out of 5. So grand total of 40. We're going to do some fun math and average it out. All right. Wally, who do you want to start with? I'll let you lead off with somebody.
Stone Cold.
Starting off with Stone Cold. All right. So let's just go ahead, and then we'll talk about in-ring. Take us off, Wally.
I gave him a 9.
9.
Because
all right.
I don't think. I mean, that's let everybody else go.
Yeah, let's just go ahead and get all our score out, and then we can talk about more in depth there. Stretch, what do you got?
Something I ran into the same problem, at least for me, for a lot of the guys on this list. They may have been good on the mic, but their in-ring sort of suffered for me because I feel like a lot of these guys on this list were, the same 5-move sort of guys. So with Stone Cold for his in-ring, I gave him a 5 just because, all I can remember him doing was stunner, stomping a mud hole, walking it dry, stomping a mud hole, stunner, punch, punch, punch. So I gave him a 5 for in-ring.
No, fair enough. J-Bone.
I'd give him an 8. I just think he's average. Nothing that really sticks out. He does have a cool finisher, but he is limited in his in-ring ability. So I gave him an 8.
Absolutely. Yep. I actually gave him a 10. So I'm coming in the high on that one there. A lot of these guys have a bit more. I don't have like some of the nostalgia, so my rings will be a little bit off from, from you guys.
I actually ranked him higher than those other two because of what he did when he was in WCW before he got to WWE. He probably would have been lower, but he was a better in-ring guy in WCW before he blew both of his knees out. So.
He was a ring master, if you will.
So my score is higher because I based it on his WCW stuff too. So
fair enough.
He was a better wrestler in WCW than he was as far as in-ring goes.
Oh yeah,
so.
yeah.
But then just kind of as the low guy there stretched a bit, just basically like you described it, kind of a one-trick pony in the ring is kind of how you would go about that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not as familiar with his WCW stuff as,
Fair enough.
the rest of us are. So that's where the basis of my ranking came from. If I maybe watched more of his, his Hollywood Blonde stuff and his Ringmaster gimmick in WCW, I might have changed my gimmick. But from where I stand, I'm not as familiar.
Sure.
Fair enough.
And then, again, for me, it's going to be the same thing for a lot of these guys. I've only seen their highlights, so they might rank a little higher for me than with you guys. So, I get to pass on a 10 there for me there. All right, let's take it over to Mike Skills. Wally, go ahead and start us off.
I gave him a 9.
Stretch?
I gave Mr. Stone Cold a 10.
J-Bone.
I gave him 8.
And I gave him an 8 as well. So just to talk about his mic skills a little bit while you want to start it off.
I mean, he's one of the better people on this list on the mic. So
What?
me and you kind of talked about this a little bit yesterday. You said you pick a couple guys who you give the highest value to, and then the next highest. So like Austin to me is in that like top 15, top 20 like mic skills guys. So I mean he it's not even because of the what even. His Austin 3-6 team promo is iconic.
Right.
So especially because he supposedly did that on the fly.
Right. Well, I mean, as much as it has become sort of a joke and a meme nowadays, the what chant is still done today. Like when
It's
Sometimes
horrible.
annoying.
It's a horrible chant.
Yeah.
It is horrible.
Yeah.
And
well, you can
I'm
thank
sorry.
Stone Cold for that.
Well,
That's why I deducted a point.
Yeah. That's probably why I deducted a point too, because that is one of the worst chants in all of wrestling. So it is awful. It is corny. It is terrible. And I never once participated in that shit either.
What?
Well done.
It's fun. I guess it's been fun to watch other people when they get wutted fire back at the crowd. So I guess we inadvertently got Alexa Bliss and some people being really funny towards the crowd when they got wutted.
Mm-hmm.
Our truth.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on then to look, entrance, kind of the general aesthetic. Wally, go ahead and start again.
I gave him an 8.
I gave him a 9.
Okay.
I went with a 10 for Mr. Stone Cold's look.
I went with an 8 as well. We're all pretty close to that one. It's
iconic,
plain but iconic.
Plain.
Yeah, I mean,
This man single-handedly brought back the short denim shorts above the knee. And the Austin 316 shirt was probably one of the highest selling shirts of the 90s, if not the highest selling shirt.
mhm.
And as far as entrance, with we're lumping this together with, the glass shatter still gets the biggest pop today.
Yeah, look for me is it's this one's hard because you're basing it on multiple things. So
Yeah, it's kind of this is the whole package. Plus, the beer entrance is never a bad thing either. That's pretty.
because his music is really good and his entrance is good. The beer is stupid for me because I don't like alcohol as a them using alcohol in wrestling. So he gets points deducted for alcohol. So because I know, but I've never been a fan of alcohol. I mean that's why I'm not a big fan of
it's all
Hangman
good.
Page right now either. So.
Well, plus with gimmicks too, we're lumping this in here too. He's had some pretty shitty gimmicks like Ringmaster and stuff like that, and some pretty decent ones. We know with the Hollywood Blondes, and then a damn good one he hit it out of the park with Stone Cold. So he's evolved over the years with that regard.
We're all pretty close on this one. There's not a big variety. Yeah. Like we're all in the.
Plus, he brought wrestling fans to bring signs with their name on it with 316.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, thank gosh they did that. And the hillbilly quotient drastically went up too. Thank you, Stone Cold. I didn't want to see all Jay's relatives at the wrestling event. So. One time we went, and Jay's like, "Look, there's my cousins in the front row."
Yeah, fester weight.
Yep.
He was sitting with Otis. Wait. Oh man.
Right. Now do we throw that under the intangibles then?
Okay, let's just go right into it. Oh, Wally, what'd you got for his intangible?
I only gave him a 3, and we'll discuss why.
Stretch?
I went with 2, and I'll touch on it in a second.
Oh wow, he went lower than me.
J-Bone?
Yeah. I went 3 as well.
I also went 3, so I think I see kind of a commonality going on here. He took his ball and went home, as Wally loves to put it.
That's why I gave him a low score. He's actually my lowest intangible score, and it's because that little bitch took his ball and went home.
Stretch?
Is that the same reason for you there, or do you got a little bit more depth?
It was part of the reason why I gave him a lower ranking, but I'll go for the reasons I gave him a 2, like positive wise. I personally thought the beer thing was pretty cool, and it's pretty damn, accurate how the timekeeper was the person to throw him the beers and how in sync they would have to be for him to throw him those from, however far away he was and still catch them. And I know he never was perfect. He never would catch, all of them at any given time, but pretty cool that they had that relationship. And just the sheer pop culture phenomenon he was, let alone just a wrestling icon. He was a pop culture icon because of that. So that's one of the big reasons I gave him, at least the 2 points I did.
I wish they would have hit him in the head with a beer when he wasn't looking. I wouldn't have been opposed to that.
Yeah, I deducted a point just for him taking his ball and going home. I thought that was a bad look. So.
Yep, same. So I did the quick math rounding. It ended up being officially 28.25, so we're going to call that a 28. All right.
For him, his average score was a 28?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, I already did the math, so.
Okay, so I'm going to write that down.
Yeah, I'm also taking notes, so we'll both do it that way. If I mess it up or one of us messes it up, we'll be able to fix that in post, Mr. Editor. Thank you. All right. Stretch, who do you want to do next?
By the way, guys, I think it's really cool that all of you guys acknowledged that he took his ball and went home. I appreciate the fact that all of you acknowledged that was done and that reflected poorly on him. So.
Yeah, definitely. Stretch, who we're doing next?
Let's go with Mr. Dusty Rhodes.
All right, Dusty Rhodes. And
if you will.
Let's start again in ring. So Stretch, you'll be starting this category off here. So what do you got?
Again, this might just be a folly of me not watching many Dusty matches and, being way out of that generation, but I gave him a 6 for in-ring because as much as I know him for in-ring, it was bionic elbow and, not much else.
Fair point.
I feel like I was being kind. Even on my low scores, I was being kind. So I gave him an 8.
I feel like a lot of this list will shake out to generational gaps too. Like you guys obviously know more about that generation than I do. So
I mean, there's only one guy on this list that was getting a really low score. So it's in this category.
Yeah.
All right, J-Bone, what do you have?
Yeah, I went with a 7. Like I said, he didn't have a lot of moves in the arsenal, but he was entertaining in the ring and doing some of his stuff. So
he did enough. He did enough that he could be in 40-minute matches with Ric Flair. So, to me, you can't just that. He gets points for that. Back when me and Jay were kids, he was doing 40-minute matches with Ric Flair at house shows. You have to be able to do something to be in a 40-minute match. Flair's one of the best in-ring guys ever, but Dusty was capable of some stuff. I think later in his career, we didn't see as much out of him. I think the better part of his career was when me and Jay were kids. So,
plus, look how jacked his forehead is.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. From all the blade jobs.
Yeah, so I went and gave him a 10 on this one. Again, I've basically, rose-colored glasses with only seeing highlights. So, but it was solid. I mean, it's also I also didn't really necessarily want to take points off just because he's a product of his time.
Yeah.
All right, I'll wait. Stretch swallows that liquid there, and then he can take it away for the Mike Skills.
Mike Skills, I gave him a 9. Hard Times promo was great, and the fact that he had a lisp would have sort of made it. You would think it would make it worse, but it honestly helped his promos for me. Made it more believable.
Yeah, I gave him a 10. He's one of the best Mike guys, so I gave out a lot of 10s in Mike Skills because a lot of these guys on this list are top-notch Mike guys. So
well, plus Dusty is. You could say he's attributed to a big reason why a lot of the stars of today are better on the mic because he helped a lot of them through the Performance Center.
Definitely.
Go
ahead.
I gave him a 9.
And I gave him a 10. Obviously, spoiler alert for a future episode, but the Hard Time is my favorite promo of all time. So, all right, Stretch. Let's go. Look,
entrance, and gimmick. I gave him a 7. Hardworking man, son of a plumber.
Me also.
Yeah. So, and the polka dots was kind of his iconic look. It was.
Yep.
Kind of cut and dry.
Was that a 7 from you, Wally? I heard.
Yes.
Okay. J-Bone?
I gave him a 6.
And I also gave him a 6. Kind of same thing. Just polka dots it stands out, but if, but kind of when you look at the rest of our list, I'm trying to grade people kind of on trying to do the same scale best I can. It's definitely not the best look that's out there, so maybe went a little harder on than necessarily deserved. But all right, let's do the intangible stretch.
I gave him a 3 on this one, and 2 of the intangibles are his sons,
Oh, fair enough.
Cody and Dustin.
Wally?
I gave him a 4. His sons, and what you had said, he did a lot of stuff backstage, or what Eli Stretch said, he did a lot of stuff backstage for NXT, and there's people who are a lot better than him, or because of him, in the NXT roster. So,
J-Bone?
I gave him a 4 as well. He's done a lot for wrestling, including bringing his kids into it. So I gave him a 4 as well.
Yeah, that's I gave him a 5, but for the exact same reasons, just the legacy that he has left, and his imprint on wrestling can't be denied. 2 sons, developmental, just being around to the day he died, always active. I can't discount that. I gotta give him a high mark on that one. So then by the end of it, rounding up, he gets a 28 to be exact, 27.5, but we're going to round it.
So him and Stone Cold both have the same thing.
Yep. I mean, if we ever need a tiebreaker, it's technically Stone Cold score 3 points higher, but like I said, we'll sort that out kind of on the back end there.
Okay.
All right, J-Bone, your turn to take one out. Who do you got?
We're going to go with, Randy Savage.
Okay. Randy Savage. All right, so it starts off with the in-ring.
I would give him a 12.
Me also.
As did I.
I went with a 9.
All right, so as the outlier stretch, do you mind if I ask you why did you give him a 9? Not that I'm not attacking you. I'm just curious.
Again, generational gaps from what I've seen, highlights. But, I mean, from what I've seen of his highlights, they were probably the best matches, from his time. His match with Steamboat. He had matches with Flair. Even matches with Hogan, he made pretty decent. So,
yeah, he's not. I only gave out 5 above 10 in ring, and Savage is one of my 12. I gave him a 12. Savage was probably the best wrestler in that time period, other than Ric Flair.
At least top 3, yeah.
In the ring.
Yeah.
So.
Definitely agree. All right, Mike Skills, J-Bone.
He was different, Randy Savage. Half the time you wouldn't know what he's talking about. But
well, cocaine fueled nightmares, so yeah.
Miss Elizabeth.
It was in a good way with him, though, I think.
Yeah. I gave him a 7. It was tough, but I gave him a 7.
Yeah, I went 8. Kind of the same
I went
thing.
8.
He kind of was his own voice. Very unique sounding on top of it. So
I went 9 for voice and intensity.
I mean, the cream of the crop promo is probably his best. Is probably his best promo. But I have the Savage DVD, and if you go back and watch the promos on there, there's somewhere between 5 and 10, pretty good promos on there. I'm not saying he's got 25 or 30, but he probably had somewhere between 5 and 10. And him and Hogan actually had some pretty good promos when they were the Mega Powers and stuff too. So
damn near sweat through his shirt during that promo.
All right, so let's go for the look, J-Bone.
Look, I thought he had a cool look. I gave him an 8.
Me also.
I went with 7 on the look.
Well, and I am the outlier on that one. I went with 10 because if you say Macho Man and how did he look, I mean, it instantly pops in my head. Bright colors, tassels, sunglasses, the hair. I mean,
cowboy hat.
Exactly. It's so iconic that.
Plus, when he was the king, he'd be carried out in the chair and stuff. So he had some cool.
Plus,
gimmicks.
if Zach gave him a 10, and Zach hates his music, so that tells you something. Yep. So
it's so classic, iconic that even my mom knows what he looks like, and she hasn't seen anything that's. Maybe that we'll go to some other categories, but his commercials too.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was leading into it for intangibles. That was something I wanted to touch on, but I'll let J-Bone go first on that one.
All right. Yep.
I went 4.
Yeah, I also went 4 on the intangibles, just purely because he birthed an iconic Slim Jim commercial.
Sure.
His look is still iconic. He still sells merch to this day posthumously, and because he, in a way, gave his blessing and birthed the Black Machismo gimmick in TNA.
I gave him a 4.
So since I'm the outlier on this one, I'll explain why. It's just because with him, for me, basically every other category almost perfectly describes him. So like, to me, the intangible was less pronounced on this one because his look was there, sure. But like basically what you saw with him is what you got. I didn't really think he kind of had a lot going on in the background personally. Again, that's with
Even
me.
when he was Bonesaw?
Bonesaw is ready.
Oh yeah, he was
So
in
the rumor that him tapping Stephanie McMahon.
Yeah.
yeah.
That's definitely an intangible. He should get bonus points for that. I think I'm going to give him a 5 now.
Yeah. All right, so he ends up being 31.
Oh, he's in the lead.
So he so far is in the lead and handily.
That doesn't surprise me. So.
All right, I'll take the next one. Let's go ahead and let's go to, I think, who might get kind of the lower part of the list here. Let's go Hulk Hogan.
Yeah, here we go.
Yeah, I figured I'll take over the negative spot this week. All right, so in ring, I gave this guy a big old fat 2. He took a deuce all over this place here.
I gave him a 1.
We got a 1. I got a 2 from Stretch, and what are we getting from J-Bone?
We can go 15.
You would.
Okay,
No,
Pat.
I went with 3. I give him a little bit of credit, not much, but I gave him a 3.
He was, again, one of those guys that I was talking about, sort of ran into the 5 moves of doom type of deal.
He didn't even have 5.
Body slam and a leg drop.
Yep.
And a boot.
Mm-hmm.
It's definitely nothing to write home about here on this category.
This guy is hands down on this list the worst in-ring performer on this list. It's not even close.
Yeah, I think we could probably agree to that one. I doubt anyone's getting less than this. So
the next closest person to him is probably the Undertaker for me. So Hogan's terrible in the ring. There's nothing nice that can be said about him. He's awful in the ring. He was cool when we were 5, but watching his garbage now, it's terrible. Like it was fine when I watched it when I was 8, and I was like, oh, okay. It's going back and watching it now. Watching the Andre Hogan match from WrestleMania 3, that match is an absolute train wreck now. It seemed awesome then, but now it's terrible. Yeah. So a 1 and a 3 and 2 2s, is that what happened on this?
Yep.
Nobody wanted to be as mean as me on this one, I see.
Well, for me, it was more of I could imagine a lot of other people who would have a 1. I mean, there has to be people worse than him, so I'm not going to give him a 1 personally. But I mean,
Great Khali. I don't know who else. Goldberg. I don't know who else would give him a. Eva Marie. I don't know how many more people I can think of that would get a 1 on my list. So Bobby Lashley. Yeah, Bobby Lashley. No, Abdullah had some entertainment value to him at least. So forking people's entertaining.
I thought you were referring to when he got electrocuted.
I love Abdullah. He's one of my favorite wrestlers, actually. But yeah.
All right,
I'm going to throw it over to Mike Skills. Again, I'm not a Hogan fan in any stretch of the imagination, but I'm still going to give him credit where credit's due. I'm giving him an 8 on this one.
I gave him a 7.
So I see a 10 from Stretch here.
10, yep.
Gave him a 7 from Wally and J-Bone. What do you got?
I'll give him a 7.
His promos for the time, once again, were cool, but if you go back and watch them now, it's the same shit over and over, like more so than anybody else. Let
me tell you something, brother.
They're vanilla as hell, and it was like, oh, what bad guy are they throwing at him this week that he's going to say his prayers and take his vitamins and that's bullshit.
But the tried and true proven formula, pardon me, of getting people in the stadiums back then, he could spout off whatever he wanted, but it did draw.
I know. I'm just saying that compared to the other guys on the list, though, somebody has to get points taken off, and I would rather have The Rock or Stone Cold on the mic than him at this point. So He did cut. He was in a great heel promo. He is in one of the greatest heel promos of all time, probably. So, and that night he was at the top of his game. So he probably got a higher score from me because he did the NWO promo that night. So.
Yeah, plus, I think if you if a kid, when we were kids growing up, you either imitated Hogan or Macho Man if you were going to cut your own promo. So I think there's
Or the
points to go
Ultimate
for that.
Warrior.
Sure.
So if you wanted to talk about nonsense, you could be the Ultimate Warrior. So.
Distrucity.
All right, let's go to his look. I went 9. Again, it's another classic 80s look. You can't be denied the hair of that shirt. So
I gave him a 10. He got a 10 for me in this one.
10 also for me on looks.
He had the look back then. I mean, he's the epitome of the look back then. I mean, that whether I like him or not, I can't deny that.
And he's still rocking the handlebar porn stash today.
This is true. J-Bone, what do you got there?
I gave him a 10 as well.
All right. So I have definitely really no diss.
So that's the one. That's the one category where Hogan it gets high marks, and he's going to get high marks from everybody because he fits that look and everything, and his entrance, his gimmick. I mean, his gimmick. Him and the Undertaker probably have the 2 best gimmicks of all time, arguably.
Yeah.
So.
Well, when your theme song boasts about being a real American, you're going to get a lot of people on your side.
That's definitely true. All right, let's just go over to the end of their intangibles. I went with a 3 for reasons we'll discuss in a second. So go ahead.
I gave him a 4.
4 as well.
4.
4. So I had to take off some marks for some of his recent, comments later in life. It turned out he's a not so good person. So
his later in life Mike skills.
There. Yeah, his retired Mike skills. Yeah, definitely heard him.
I floated with a 3 or a 4 because he was a terrible actor. So I was going to take points off for No Holds Barred and Mr. Nanny and all that bullshit.
You leave Thunder in Paradise alone.
Yeah, Thunder in Paradise is actually pretty good.
The best role Hogan played in a movie was Thunder Lips. I will take that to my grave. That was the best
also true.
He ever was in a movie was Thunder Lips, and he wasn't even really Hulk Hogan then. So, that's his best role ever in a movie before he was, super, super famous. So.
Yep. So then he ends up with 94 points, which will drop him down to a rounded up 24.
I gave him a 22 overall. I don't know where you guys were. He's by far my lowest scoring person on here.
I also got a 22 from him as well. All right.
Me. It's time to smell what The Rock is cooking.
All right. And just take us away right into in-ring.
I gave him a 9. So he's above that smidge right above average. He's competent in the ring. He has his moments. He does have, as we discussed on a previous podcast, the greatest terrible move of all time. So, and he's milked that people's elbow and done some really cool people's elbows.
Yep.
So he's not a double-digit guy for me, but I gave him a 9 because he has managed to. He does have the ability to make other people look good, I think.
Stretch.
I went 8. Kind of touched on it already. Wally has the greatest terrible move of all time. Yeah, it's electrifying, but at the end of the day, it's just an elbow drop. And he would have scored higher for me had his sharpshooter form been better, but he has the worst sharpshooter ever.
Fair enough. J-Bone.
I gave him a 9. I'm agree with Wally. He's just, I think, just a bit above average. So.
Yeah. I mean, same. I gave him a 9 as well for the exact same reasons, where it's definitely not bad in the ring by any stretch of the imagination, but also he's not going to be lighting up the charts here. So then let's go to I think might be maybe all agreed upon Mike skills.
If anybody on here didn't give this guy a 10, there's a problem.
Uh-oh. Stretch, what do you got?
No, I have a 10.
Okay. You look like you were about to
No, I was trying to think of a rock pun to work in there, but
okay. J-Bone.
I think I'm going to be the Russian judge and give him a 6.
Yep.
I doubt that.
God.
Yeah.
9.5.
I've had discussions with all of you guys. There's nobody on here that doesn't think this guy's the greatest guy on the mic of all
Absolutely.
time. So,
all time. Yep.
Like I said, we can if we really want to down the road, we can do a podcast just about The Rock. And it could just be about his promos. We don't even have to do anything else other than talk about Rock promos, because nobody on this list in wrestling history has cut more great promos than The Rock. nobody.
Absolutely. All right, let's switch it over then to his look.
I also gave him a 10 for that. So I think not Rocky Maivia, but once he became The Rock, his look, I mean, every time we saw him, every 5 years he gets more jacked. So, like, I mean, this guy's also the definition of the look of a wrestler to me. Like, when did he not have, other than when he was Rocky Maivia? So maybe I could have taken him down to a 9.5 there. But I gave him a 10.
Stretch?
10 as well from me.
I gave him a 9.
9, and I went a little low on that one. I went 7. Just like, sure, he had the, he had a fine entrance. He had a, obviously, raising the eyebrow, that kind of stuff. But just like, in ring gear, kind of plain. Just for me, just look wise. I mean, there's definitely more exciting people because basically I didn't want to rank everyone 10 on this list. So I kind of went through. I'm like, well, I think definitely these guys look better than The Rock did. So that's why I went with a 7 on that one. So
he would be, if you break my 10s down, they're kind of generational. So I gave Hogan a 10. He was the look guy for his generation, and then The Rock to me was the look guy for the Attitude Era. That's where my 10 came for him.
Fair enough.
Plus, I thought his look matched his personality. Wearing those loud tropical shirts with the sunglasses.
Oh yeah.
Right.
So.
With his $600 shoes, baby.
All right, then let's switch it over to the intangible flex category.
I gave him a 5. This
5
guy's
as well for me.
And Jay.
Yeah, I'd give him a 5.
Yep, 5.
This guy was a company guy. This is the guy who came back early when the son of a bitch earlier dropped his ball. So, and he's opened the door for so many other people because of what he's done. I don't know how you can't give him a 5 in this category.
Open the door for everybody in the legendary Anawahi family, you mean?
Well, I mean, Cena and all these other people are in movies because of The Rock.
Yeah,
so.
I was going to touch on that. Pretty much, he is still, I think, the most highest grossing actor in all of Hollywood right now, or in the last couple of years. So,
maybe all time at this point. It's possible. I'll look it up to be sure, but
he did what Hulk Hogan tried to do, and he was successful at it because he has way more charisma. I guess intangible could be charisma, could be an intangible too. And this guy is the king of charisma.
Yes.
And not all of his movies are great too. Like he's had some stinkers in there. Like I'm not gonna lie.
What, Tooth Fairy?
Tooth Fairy.
Yeah. Right.
Escape from Witch Mountain.
I just voted for Tooth Fairy the other night as the worst sports movie I've ever seen. So.
All right.
Scorpion King.
Scorpion King was okay.
It's adequate. It's adequate as a spinoff, especially. So Rocky ends up with 33 points.
I will tell you guys this. When I was doing this with Zach last night, I realized that The Rock deserves to be higher in my top 10 than I have had him. I've kind of gone back and forth between him and Triple H, and after doing this, I'm like, The Rock is better than Triple H because he scores higher in these categories. So,
all right, not to step on Stretch, but maybe we should do Triple H next then.
Yeah, let's go.
Sorry.
For it. No, that's fine. Go
I
for it.
don't want to hijack it, but that's a perfect segue. So let's just go into it. Stretch, what do you got for Triple H?
In ring, I gave him an 8.
Okay.
He's had some good power moves. The Arn Anderson Spinebuster, the pedigree. He's just a good, hoss dude. Like he's always been there to have the big power moves, the knee lift he always did, shit like that. So, middle of the line for me.
I actually gave him a 10.
I went 11.
I went 8.
All right, so we're pretty definitely some kind of I see a pattern going on there. So
he was, I mean, so one of the things here is maybe Eli. I'm the only person who was really watching him regularly when he was in his prime.
Yeah.
So that's when he was
when I grew up watching, it was sort of like right after, it was about 02, 03. So right at peak reign of terror, Triple H, his super douchebag heel reign. So,
and I know Jay's told me he didn't watch it then. So I'm the only person that's really watched him throughout especially when he was in his prime. So I'm probably going to score him higher because that's when he was having his best matches, was when he was in his prime. So he's a smidge better than The Rock to me in the ring because he's been in lengthier matches than The Rock. And he also, I don't know, when it comes down to it, I had to go. I would take Triple H in the ring over The Rock. That's what it comes down to.
That's also why I gave him 11. And this is also him in his prime was basically the first time I started watching wrestling was when he and The Rock were, kind of at the top of their game. So that's why he went probably a little bit higher than maybe he deserves. But, I'm allowed to rate as I want. So try and stop me. Let's go Mike Skills there, Stretch. What do you got?
Mike Skills, I gave him a 7. He can sort of play any part with any of his gimmicks and still be good on the mic. In DX, him and Michaels were the mouthpiece of that. They riled up crowds, raised hell, anarchy, all that shit. I mean, he even had decent mic skills as a snobby aristocrat from Greenwich. And then peak heel reign of terror, Triple H was great. He, everybody hated him when he was on the mic because of that. And even, during all the many DX reformations and all the authority stuff, he was still excellent on the mic for me. So.
Okay.
I gave him an 8.
J-Bo?
I gave him a 7.
And
I think he's above average, but I don't think he's great.
I gave him a 7 as well.
I think he was good at dealing with the cards he was dealt, playing with the cards he was dealt.
When he was he got extra point for me because when he was in DX, especially when they were doing the promos where he was talking about his wiener all the time, he gets in that was entertainment. That DX stuff from back when it was just the two of them with China and Rick Rude was fabulous. So
the only reason he didn't score higher for me was Katie Vick. That whole ordeal.
Some of us actually found the entertainment in that. So if they redid that, I would laugh at it again. So
oh boy, and PG WWE.
All right, let's go look.
Look for Triple H. I gave him an 8. Some of the greatest theme music of all time. Both of his Motorhead songs, and even the DX theme. Honestly, we could throw that in there. Always had great pyro, the water spitting, the whole, just the way he carries himself, the game gimmick, the King of Kings, like all of it.
Sure.
Great.
I gave him a 9.
Yeah, I gave him a 9 as well.
And I went with a 7 on that one. Definitely has the greatest hair. In fact, if you look at video game and how they, kind of decide how good the graphics are, they'd always go straight to Triple H's hair, how it looked.
Yep.
So
his entrance is still one of my favorite entrances. So when he spits the water and stuff, it's really cool. So I still like it. Even if I see him do it tomorrow, I still like it. Whenever he decides to grace the ring with his presence again to put somebody over.
All right, let's go then intangible.
For intangibles, I went with the twofer, and that's purely because he is, the heart and soul of NXT right now, and sort of, heading up that brand.
So 2?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I don't really see much outside of that. I mean,
I gave him a 4, so.
I gave him a 3.
3, and I gave him a 5, kind of because of just the leadership that he has shown over all this, this time too. So
I would have made my intangibles higher had it been made public that he is entirely responsible for NXT, not saying, oh, Triple H is responsible for NXT, and then knowingly having Vince come in and put his hands in things. I'm
giving him an extra point just for he saw the way in, so he married Stephanie. I'm not faulting him for that. I'm giving him a pat on the back for that. So there's nothing bad about that. That was smart for him. He's probably going to end up running WWE someday because of that. Like, how can you not commend somebody for being that? And he has to put up with Stephanie. So.
All right. So unless I did my math wrong, we have a dead tie with him with Stone Cold. They both scored 113. So divide that by 4, you get 28 and some change.
Okay.
All right, Jay, who are we going to do next?
Let's go RVD.
Okay. Go ahead. I'm going to put a disclaimer up there. I really had to lean on Wally real heavy on this one. He kind of gave me a range of scores. I didn't have enough time to do a super deep dive on this guy, and I've never seen him before, basically, before he got nominated. So,
all right, Ringability. I think it's one of the best of all time, so I gave him a 14.
As did I. I did watch a couple matches. I was very impressed with what I saw, and then with Wally's advice, it's how I settled on my 14. So
I gave him a 13.
I went 11.
He is one of the best in ring guys. If I was going to branch out and go top 25, whatever. AJ and RVD would be the first two non-WWE guys probably that would I would talk about. Like they're probably the two best guys who spent most of their career not in WWE.
Mm-hmm.
Like RVD, became a household name when he was in WWE, but he was really better in ECW than he was in WWE.
Yeah.
So AJ has probably been almost as good in WWE as he was in, but RVD is a really good in-ring guy. So that's definitely his strong suit.
I did like how RVD sort of, at least for me, the first time I saw a guy do this, he would sell his aerial maneuvers as hurting him just as much as it hurt his opponents. Like every time he did the 5-star frog splash, he's selling his own ribs just as much, and that made the move more believable for me, at least.
Okay. And let's go Mike Skills.
He was average. I think he was a little better in ECW with his whole weed gimmick and stuff where he could always saying stuff. But I just gave him a 5, just average.
Yep.
Me
I also gave him a 5.
I went 4.
I think that I don't think it's completely his fault that WWE didn't let him talk for the first 2 years he was there. I think RVD's whole thing in ECW was he was high. And I think when he cut some of his promos in ECW, he was high. In WWE, he couldn't be high to cut his promos. So I think that harmed him for a while, and I don't think WWE trusted him for a long time. I mean, he was okay when he was on the mic in WWE when they gave him a mic, but Jay's 100% right. His best stuff was definitely in ECW. But
Sorry. They sort of just turned him, in my mind, they turned him into like a catchphrase machine in WWE. Like he was just there to sort of push some shirts like, oh, it's Mr. Monday Night or if he's on SmackDown, Mr. Thursday Night. Like just here to push some shirts. Sadly.
I just read something where he was he wanted Vince to call his leg drop the 420 leg drop, and Vince wasn't having none of that. So
yeah, if they weren't going to call Spike Dudley LSD, little Spike Dudley, like in ECW, they wouldn't do that.
Well, weed is evil. So let's go over then to his look. J-Bone.
His look was cool. Nothing crazy or anything like that. So I gave him a 7.
I went 6 just based off a couple pictures that I just kind of just researched, just basically looked up
6.
RVD, try to find as much as I could.
I went 7. He had probably the most diverse range of singlets I've ever seen, and then Ryback came and tried to squeeze into him.
Yeah. I haven't thought about Ryback in a long time.
That's a good thing.
I was about to say, yeah.
Yeah.
Don't.
Please don't.
Yeah.
He already got his 15 seconds of fame. His name should never come up on here again.
And
Fair
any man self-respecting enough to rock a ponytail with shaved sides, can kick your ass. So.
All right, let's go intangible.
I went 3.
3 as well.
I was gonna go 3. I gave him a 4 because he wanted to be Shawn Michaels, so I give him credit for trying to be Shawn Michaels because that's who I would have wanted to be back then if I was him. So he got an extra point for me for that.
I went with 5, almost just to give him a little bit of flex in case I was rating him a little bit too low due to my inexperience. So I kind of used the intangible to kind of boost his score a little bit, just as a way to correct any kind of errors I might have made. So.
Well, plus you could throw longevity under there for his intangibles. He's still wrestling today for Impact.
Yeah.
This is true. And then he ended up with 112. So his 28 is actually a little bit behind Triple H's. And
so his is like a 27.5 then, essentially?
Well, his is actually straight 28, but...
Okay.
All right. I'm up. So let's go ahead and let's dive into The Undertaker. In ring, I went just kind of right there in the middle there. I went 7 for this guy.
Me too.
I went with a 6.
I went 7 as well.
And I'm going to make the point I made to all of you guys now. He spent most of his career in programs with guys on this list. So when you spend most of your career fighting guys who are the all-time greats, you're not going to end up in a lot of shitty matches then. And Kurt Angle's not on this list, and Brock Lesnar's not on this list. There's other people that aren't on this list who he also spent half of his – he just spent most of his – once his gimmick got over, he was going to be in good feuds. They weren't going to waste him. I mean, they did when they did the dog kennel match or whatever at WrestleMania. But
Yeah.
I can't go back and find a match where I'm concretely like, wow, this match was good because the Undertaker was in it. It's always because he was fighting Shawn Michaels or he was fighting The Rock or Brock Lesnar or whatever. And that's the best point I can make about him, is that he was always wrestling guys who are considered all-time greats or top 20 guys of all time. He spent most of his career fighting those guys. So you're not going to end up in bad. And he probably got to the point where he had enough clout backstage that he was probably telling Vince, I ain't doing shit with that guy.
Yeah, it has been well known he was the de facto locker room leader for like 20 years.
I'm not giving him like, I don't know, 10 or an 11 in this category because he got to wrestle all these greats his whole career. And this is another thing I think the Undertaker's – surprisingly, you guys seem to agree with me. So I'm not the only person that doesn't think the Undertaker is less, average.
Yeah, but who else walks a tightrope like that? I mean, that never gets old, you know.
Right.
At 7 feet tall.
I cringe every time he does it. So it's almost like the 619 at this point. Please stop doing it.
All right, let's change it over to Mike's skills. I went with a 3 on this one. I mean, the fact that he had a mouthpiece and pallbearer for a good portion of his career.
I gave him a 5. He was average at best. Rest in peace is the only thing he ever said that mattered.
I went with a 2.
Woohoo! Jesus.
I gave him a 4. He had a mouthpiece most of the time, so.
Yeah.
You feel like so much of him rolling his eyes in the back of his head.
Yeah.
Well, plus, like Wally had said with his character, like it kind of did all the work for him. He didn't, not that he didn't need to talk on the mic, but you knew he wasn't going to talk that much on the mic if he's a reincarnated dead person.
Yep. And again, it's not like, it's just.
But even when he's the American badass, though, instead of the biker taker.
He sucked on the mic. He wasn't good at that then either. Like, go back and find me a good Undertaker promo. Good luck on that one. You'll be looking for a while on that one probably.
All right, so then let's go something that he did have in spades. Look, I gave him a solid old 10 on that one.
Me too.
I went 9.
Yeah. I gave him a 10.
This guy has probably the best gimmick of all time. He really did. Whether I like him or not, he has the best gimmick. It served the test of time for how many goddamn years?
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
it's still going.
WWE's trying to reincarnate it with the Fiend too. They're trying to find a supernatural gimmick.
Yeah.
I much prefer the Undertaker to the Underbiker. I think the Underbiker is terrible, so I did not like him at all. Anyways, but when he was the Underbiker, it was worse for me. I was like, this is terrible. So fuck the Underbiker.
I mean, that coat, that hat, the urn, where you want to, basically give to him. It just can't. It's hard to beat that. So,
and even though his entrance takes 20 minutes,
sure,
it's over. I beg to differ on that part of this. I will disagree with his entrance being great. I think his entrance is boring and terrible. And once you've seen it once, the nostalgia is completely worn off. And I've probably sat through that thing 15 times at least, probably more. And I'm so tired of it at this point. My favorite Undertaker is like one of the older ones. I like when he had the boots with the sheepskin or the calfskin boots.
The purple.
And the tie. Like, I liked when he had the tie and the hat and stuff.
So
that's
Mortician Taker.
Yeah, pale skin.
Pale. That was definitely my favorite version of the Undertaker. That was a long, long time ago.
All right, let's move over to the intangibles. I went 5 on this one. Just because, again, just when we're talking about some of our greatest matches, his name came more than once. Just a general for the WWE or WWF, what you want to call it. And then plus, like I said, just off definitely being kind of, there's definitely some synergy going on with his character where he's definitely more than the sum of his parts. So I went, a solid 5 on that.
I gave him a 4.
I went 4 as well.
4.
Okay. Far off
he was the locker room guy for years. So and he was nice when I met him and got his autograph. He was actually nice. So I'll give him half a point for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I watched that 5 series documentary or whatever on him, and I have a little more respect for him after watching this.
So he just beats Hogan. 97 points to 94, so they both score 24, but he scores slightly higher. And then Wally, who do you want next?
The Heartbreak Kid, Shawn
Right.
Michaels. Let's do this one.
Let's do it, which I have a sneaking suspicion might be in the running for our number 1.
I gave him a 15 in the ring. This guy is the best in-ring performer I've ever seen. There's
I
only
agree.
one other guy on this list who I think is in the same group as him.
15 as well. Stretch?
Yep, ditto 15.
Yeah, I'm only giving 2 15s, and he's one of them.
Yep, I only have 2 15s also. I'm betting that your other 15's mine too on that one. So this guy is the definition of in-ring. Jay and me have talked about it numerous times. If you go find the top 50 matches of all time, I pretty much guarantee he's in 15 of them or more.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, he is Mr. WrestleMania by far. If you were on a card at WrestleMania and Michaels wasn't in the main event, good luck following his match. So even when he was with and he sells, he might be the best seller of all time too. I mean, Dolph Ziggler clearly thinks he's Shawn Michaels at this point. So even RVD to some point would sell. Anybody that's like wanted to be Shawn Michaels can sell, because that's what Michaels did. He oversold sometimes. I'm not saying he's not guilty of that, but sometimes his overselling was okay. So I'd rather somebody oversell than undersell.
Yep. If you go back to our greatest matches pre-2010, it's basically a Shawn Michaels love fest. So, you don't need to go any further than that. 15's all around. Absolutely. So let's go.
And you look at his greatest matches, they're in his 20s, his 30s, and his 40s.
Right.
Yeah.
He had 2 careers. This guy had 2 careers, essentially.
Right.
So.
Well, then again, almost 3 now, especially with his working with NXT.
So I gave him a 10 for Mike's skills because he was in DX and he had really good promos. Maybe not when he was with the Rockers, but once DX happened, and he kind of, even when he was when the Canada Forever bullshit was going on with Bret Hart, Michaels loves to go shit on Canada. So there's one
daddy in Montreal.
Yeah. There's a fabulous Michaels promo in Canada where he is just shitting on the crowd and eating it up.
Stretch?
I went 9.
I also went 9.
I went 8.
I only gave 4 10s. He got one of my 10s on the mic. So.
All right, let's go over to look.
That one I only gave him an 8. So his gimmick is cool enough, and he was in DX. His entrance, I mean, he has had the same entrance music for his whole career, basically, after he went single. So I don't know if that's good or bad. I think it should be a good thing that he hasn't had to change his music.
It damn sure doesn't happen anymore nowadays.
That's for sure. I also went 8. Just kind of, again, he's kind of one of those guys where if you say, how did Shawn Michaels look, you can definitely conjure an image. So, Stretch?
I went 9.
I went 8.
I mean, he's like you said, it's memorable enough that he doesn't deserve to be scored low. So yep. I just he's not a 10 in this one, I don't think. So
yeah,
especially when he had the mullet,
All right, let's then go to the intangible there, Wally.
I gave him a 5. So the only thing you could really take points off of him for was the fact that he was a dick.
Yeah.
His first time around in WWE, but I think he kind of made up for that by being the complete opposite of that the second time around. I think we can forgive him for being a dick when he was in his 20s, right, and then looking back and saying, okay, I was an asshole. I'm not going to be that guy anymore. So except with Hogan. So
Hogan brought that on himself.
Yeah. So. Stretch, what do you got for him?
I went for a 5 as well, for pretty much all the same reasons Wally just listed.
Same with me, 5. And J-Bone?
I gave him a 5.
I have a feeling we have a first place person.
By a wide margin. He scored a total of 149, so that gives him a total score of, we're going to call it 37.
Okay.
I think that's going to be hard to beat. Stretch, who do you got?
The man who cannot be seen, Mr. John Cena.
Okay.
For his in-ring acumen, I went 9. Just again, he was a little bit above average for me, but he fell into the category for a while of being the 5-move Superman, sort of, the same deal, dog and pony show every time around. You could sort of predict his matches for a while there, but he did get better in his later years. In the past few years, he has sort of provided a lot of, high energy and high tempo matches in WWE.
Yeah.
I gave him a 9 also.
Yeah.
As did I. J-Bone?
Yeah, a couple years ago I would have scored him lower, but he did get a lot better. So I gave him a 9.
Wow, we all 4 gave him 9s. Wow. He did. He would have been a 7 or an 8 years ago, but he did say, all right, I got to get better. And he had, pretty good matches this past decade. He had 3 or 4 matches that were pretty solid this last decade. So,
Right.
Yep. All right. And Mike Skills.
I went 10 on that one. That man can work a crowd.
J-Bone?
I gave him an 8. I just think some of the stuff he says is kind of cheeseball, but he is decent on the mic, and I didn't watch a lot of it when he first came out when
His
he was the
rap
rapper.
comics.
Yeah,
and stuff. So I might have missed a good chunk of it. So, but I still gave him an 8.
I gave him a 9.
If you want a small little sampling, J-Bone, go back and watch him versus Elias last year at WrestleMania, or like his little rap verse he had for Elias.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah, I saw that.
Zach, what'd you give him?
I actually went a little bit low with the group. I went 7. Just because, well, for me, it's his whole just always being positive and being the king of the PG to me is kind of
Right,
that's not personally what I'm looking for. So
But you're another person that didn't really watch Thugonomics.
Correct.
Rapper John Cena. So
well, plus WWE has sort of given him moments
Right.
of like when he had a rap off with the Usos and he said, "Oh, y'all look like your mug shots" or something like that. Like he's had moments there.
Yeah,
Sure.
they put him on a leash and they say go out and cut a PG promo. And from time to time, like when he was in the feud with The Rock, we got to see like John Cena be John Cena.
Yeah.
So I think he did get hampered by WWE once the PG era. They're like, you wanted this, so go out and cut PG promos.
Yep.
He's definitely not coming out and saying, "I'm like a swollen penis, you can't beat me anymore."
When he was the rapper John Cena, if he would have never done anything other than that, he would have been a 10 for sure. That character on the mic was as good as anybody else on this list other than Jericho and The Rock, probably.
Fair enough. Let's go then. Look there, Stretch.
I went a 7 on that one. For a while there, he was Mr. Jean Shorts, and which color T-shirt is he wearing this month? But I mean, his entrance music was iconic. It became a meme over time, so it has its place in pop culture. A lot of people know it who aren't even wrestling fans.
Sure.
He's had multiple iconic entrances over the years. WrestleMania entrances coming through in the Mustang. With all the John Cena lookalikes and his run to the ring. All of that. It's iconic and derivative of his character.
Yep.
I actually gave him a 10. Gave him a 10.
Okay.
He's my guy from that era that had the look to me. He fits the guy from that era. So
yeah, I went a little low. I went 6. Again, the Jorts T-shirt thing. It's just to me, it's kind of like you can do better. And but
once again though, he also when he was the rapper, he was rocking the jerseys and the chain, and he was doing all the stuff that I thought was cool at the time.
Right.
So like that's important to me that he was doing that then. So
whereas to me, like seeing him from a kind of a more modern day lens, I've tried not to take it against him at the same time. Even that, I'm kind of like, eh. All right, J-Bone, what do you got?
I gave him a 7.
Okay, and then let's go over to the intangible.
I went 5er on that one.
4.
J-Bone?
I went 4.
And I went 5. One of the reasons I didn't quite go higher on the mic is he doesn't always have the crowd in his palm when he comes out, but he sure has it when he leaves.
Mm-hmm.
He has that charisma. He has that extra, whatever you want to call it. That just hardly anyone else has that. So
he's a borderline 4 or 5 in the intangible because he is a company guy and he does everything they ask of him. He's another guy that he's one of the guys in this list that you've never really heard anything bad about, other than maybe he buried the Nexus. But I don't know how great the Nexus really was looking back at it. I don't even like half the people that were in it anyway. So, like, I don't really know how bad him burying the Nexus really was in the big picture. So
I forget the exact. I saw a video on it the other day. I forget the exact number of wishes he's granted with Make-A-Wish, but he's granted by
That's
far the
also
most
yes.
wishes. And he's still doing it now, like during the COVID era. Like there's videos of him still granting wishes with these kids, and he's wearing a face mask and gloves and everything. Like still like there to make these kids' day. So that alone gives him like 3 intangible points right there for me.
Of course. So he ends up with a total of 118, which gives him the average of 30 points.
okay.
All right, J-Bone. Who do you want next?
Last guy's the Nature Boy,
Woo!
All right.
and I gave him a 15.
Me also.
Yep.
I went 13 on that one.
This guy is the second best in-ring performer I've ever seen. This guy has been doing it for years. He is like the older version of Shawn Michaels.
Absolutely.
He was in, when Ric Flair was in his prime, they were doing 40-minute matches at house shows every fucking night.
Right.
So like I mean, we've all seen Ric Flair match. Well, me and Jay especially, we remember the Flair matches from the 80s when he would get thrown over the ropes, run to the other end, do the Flair flop. Like he's got things that he's made. They're Ric Flair things.
Elbow drop in his jacket.
Elbow or knee drop in his jacket. And he just even like later in his career, when he was in WWE, he could still go in and put on a show. I mean, the Shawn Michaels Ric Flair match from WrestleMania is a great match because you had, even though Flair was past his prime at that point, you had the two best in-ring performers, in my opinion, fighting in that match. And it was a retirement match. And when Shawn Michaels was like, I'm sorry, those guys know how to tell a story in the ring, too. That's the other thing about Michaels and Flair. They were the two best at telling the story in the ring. So Michaels was a little bit more flashier than Flair was. Flair was still a little bit more mat-based, I think, or technician kind of. But still, it's just these were the two best in-ring guys I've ever seen. So
Absolutely. Mike Skills.
I went 10 as well. He had so many catchphrases, and
Yep.
Me also.
Me as well.
And I went 9.
Him and Dusty are the best promo guys from the 80s.
Flair's another guy who would sweat through his shirt through a promo, but that's his damn intensity.
Yeah.
I mean, we got the woo off. Enough said. Like we got the woo off when Flair was way past his prime. We got arguably the best non-WWE, non-ECW promo ever. Right. Because of Ric Flair. So
and his face would be bright red. You think he's ready to stroke out.
And when he's always like, when he's like oldest ride, longest line, and he's like, even that
Space
fat lady
Mountain.
wants to ride Space Mountain, and he gyrates to the crowd.
Pelvic thrust.
Yes. This guy was classic. Ric Flair was classic.
Right.
Mike stuff.
All right. Look.
He had a great look about him too. I didn't want to give too many 10s and stuff, so I gave him a 9.
I went with a 9 as well.
I only went 7 on this one.
All right. I actually went 10 on this one, so go figure.
The feathered robes and the like tailored suits, the sunglasses, the big hair, like that's what did it for me.
What did you give them their Stretch? I'm sorry.
It was a 9.
9.
Me and J-Bone both gave him 9s.
And then let's go intangible.
I gave him a 4.
Me as
Me
well.
also.
All right. Yep. 4's taken on that one. Go ahead and vamp about that a little bit. Close. Yeah, we do just quick math here. I hit the wrong button, so vamp somebody. Talk about
Charlotte Flair. That's one of the big reasons, one of his intangibles. I mean, God rest his soul I forget the name of his one son who took his own life. But
David.
Yeah.
Or David.
Yeah.
No, I thought it was Reed.
Reed was the one who took his own life. David was the one who was in WCW. But I mean, who would have known what could have career they could have had? That maybe they would have turned out as good as Charlotte, or
Well, and if he doesn't die, Charlotte never even wrestles probably.
Right.
Yeah.
So
Plus, he brought fascist groups. The Four Horsemen. That was like the
Right.
first really known group.
Well, and he's a pop culture icon now. I mean, Migos, Ric Flair drip. Like,
Yeah.
All right, so he ends up, if my math is correct, and again, we'll double check this in post. He is 1 point behind Shawn Michaels at 148, so also averages out to 37.
Nice.
So Michaels is going to be 1 and Flair is going to be 2, which was the way I expected it.
But yeah, I did. That's a lot closer than I thought it was going to be. So all right, we have 2 left, I believe.
Yeah.
Yes.
So let's go ahead. I'm the next guy up. Let's go ahead and do Jericho. For in ring, I'm going to give him a solid kind of down the slightly above average and give him a 10. In ring, it's definitely nothing to complain about there. So
I gave him an 11.
That's what I gave him.
I went 9. I mean, definitely right down the middle. He has kind of regressed in recent years, but since we're focusing on, up to 2010 for that time period, I would say 9.
He was really good when he was in WCW. So
I mean, ECW even too. He had some good matches there with Malenko and Eddie Guerrero.
Yeah, him and RVD had a great match too, where the top rope absolutely collapsed during the match, and they still wrestled the whole match without a top rope and put on a heck of a match.
I mean, yeah, Jericho clearly this decade hasn't really, this past decade, he definitely digressed, but he still.
That's also why we threw him in the pre-2010. So,
so most of his career was before then. So he got. I gave him. He was good in WWE until about the time period we're ending at in 2010. I think it started.
Yeah.
Going the other way for him. So.
But let's talk about something that he's never slouched in. Mike Skills, 10.
10.
I gave him a 10 as well.
I mean, let's be real. Like, arguably, top 2 of all time, right? I mean,
they
let's
don't.
be real.
I mean, yeah, they don't pick many people to go toe to toe with The Rock on the mic on their debut night in the company. So
this Rock, Jericho, Flair, like all 3 of them are right in that discussion. Like I think Rock is here, and I think Jericho and Flair are like looking down at him, looking up at The Rock. But I think that would probably be my next 2.
Absolutely. Let's go over to the look there. I went with 7 on this one. I mean,
me too.
Yeah, me too.
I went 8 just for the gimmick aspect of it, how he's had so many gimmicks. I mean, Wally and I talked about it, or I think Zach and I and Wally did too, how many gimmicks he's had over the years that have been successful and, were memorable. He's had, I think, like 6 or 7 we talked about the other day.
At least.
Plus all his ponytails that he has in his hair.
Yeah. I mean,
great hair.
When he was in WCW, he was awesome. And when he first came into WWE, when he came back the one time and cut his hair short, I think he looked like a tool with his short hair. I didn't really like that look for him. I think he looked like a tool.
He saved it when he became heel and only wore suits with that short hair and was like cutting these like very verbose, like soft-spoken promos, but he was like such a badass. That was when he – sorry, go ahead.
No, go finish.
I was just gonna say that. I just remember that iconically. That was like the height of the time I was watching WWE, and I just remember him socking Shawn Michaels' wife in the face in that whole program.
Granted, it was post 2010, but we've all agreed he was in the greatest 6 months of wrestling we've seen since like 2012 when he was with Kevin Owens.
Right.
Yep.
So he gets him and Owens both get the credit for that. So
Absolutely. Then intangible, I went 4.
5.
4 as well.
4.
I mean, just again, not that we can talk necessarily because we're ranking him pre 2010, but still, just longevity. In ring ability with the mic skills, his look, his ability to adapt to any situation and make it gold. It's just you can't really discount that. So
this man has an ear for the business.
He does.
Yep. All right, so he ends up with a 32.
So Bret Hart's the only one left, right?
That is correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Okay. I gave Bret Hart a 14 in the ring.
I went 13.
He's right after Flair and Michaels for me.
J-Bone?
Yeah, this was tough. I kind of went between a 13 and 14, but I'm going to give him a 14.
I also gave him a 14. I mean, this is the Iron Man match, right? Let's just that kind of.
I mean, this guy, technical wrestling wise, is probably the best in ring guy if you just go based on technical stuff. This guy was doing. I mean, when I watched his career. I think the thing about Shawn Michaels and Bret Hart for me that's really cool is I basically saw their whole career. I was watching them when they were in tag teams. I watched them when they became singles wrestlers. So I watched them grow and get better over the years. And they kind of almost did it not completely simultaneously, but similar.
Close.
So and Bret Hart is he's a guy that everybody says was really good at calling the match in the ring.
Yep.
Like, he saved the British Bulldog at SummerSlam 92 because Bulldog 100%. Had no clue. I don't even think.
High of his mind.
Think. Yeah. So Bret Hart. That is why when Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels fought in the Iron Man match, we got what we got because you had two of the guys who are the greatest in-ring guys of all time fighting in a match. You gave them 60 minutes. That's why that match is. I don't know if we're ever going to see an Iron Man match that's better than that one, just because you can't find guys like that.
And who's to know how many more years of that great wrestling we would get from him had Goldberg not kicked his head off.
Fucking Goldberg, piece of shit. Ruined something else. That guy just didn't do anything right.
All right, let's go Mike Skills.
I would have given him probably a 6 in this, but I went with an 8 because when he did the Team Canada stuff, everything changed. Heel Bret Hart was as good as I've seen a heel be in that 1 year when that was going on. He was shitting on America. When he called Pittsburgh the toilet bowl of America or whatever, that was fabulous. And his promos were kind of vanilla before then. Like, he was always like, it was almost like a Hogan promo, the best there is. He would kind of say it was always a face. Even when he was a heel, he was kind of cutting face promos. But when he was a heel tag team with Jim Neidhart, but when he did the Team Canada stuff, he showed a whole different side of himself. I'm like, okay, this guy actually is good on the mic, just not as a face.
Sure. That's why I went 6 for him. I mean, like you said, your initial rating, I went 6 just because, I even, in my research, found an interview with Shawn Michaels who said that Bret Hart was always just kind of himself on the mic, and that's probably why Shawn Michaels' words where he suffered a little bit with his mic skills. So, 6.
Yep, 6 for me as well.
Yeah, I would have gave him a 4 before his heel. Then I bumped into a 6 because I thought he was terrible before that. So I gave him a 6.
Look, I gave him a 9 for look and gimmick and stuff. So because his look is iconic, the pink and black attack.
Yep.
So
those glasses. 9. I mean, those glasses. Like, come on, those are some of the best sunglasses of all time.
Wally, how much did you want to be one of those kids in the front row who got a pair of those glasses as growing up?
I mean, it was hard for me because him and Shawn Michaels were always feuding with each other. It seemed like for years, and I always liked Michaels better. So, I didn't always like Bret Hart because I was always cheering for Michaels. Mm-hmm. So, but I can't take away from what he did. So, right. I'm definitely a Shawn Michaels guy, not a Bret Hart guy.
J-Bone?
I gave him an 8.
All right, let's go intangibles.
I gave him a 4. So, he's another guy that we never really have heard anything bad about. Sure. He wasn't a guy that, his book is actually the best wrestling book I've ever read, and it's because he has no ties to WWE or any other promotion, so he could write the book and he could shit on whoever he wanted, and he did. Like, he said he doesn't like Hulk Hogan at all. He shit on the right people. So I wasn't going to give him a 5, so I gave him 4.
Stretch?
I went 4. He's been pretty much a consummate pro his whole career. I mean, the WWE screwed him over, and he kind of said, "Fuck it, I'm going to see WCW now." And he kind of shit on who he wanted to. Yeah, he wanted to stay in WWE his whole career. They fucked him over, but he's a consummate pro, and the man has survived the most illnesses and diseases out of anybody. He's survived a stroke. He's survived cancer. He survived being attacked by a fan at the Hall of Fame. So just props
he's a stand-up guy.
He really is. Yeah.
Other than his issues with Shawn Michaels.
Yeah, I gave him a 4 as well.
Yep, same. So we got 4 all around on that one.
Michaels and Bret Hart just got to a point where they just didn't like each other. They were both Michaels was – I think both of them were guilty of being a douche in that situation. I don't think it was just one or the other. I think both of them were just acting like children. I didn't think they got to a point where they were both acting like, stupid over it. So that's
Not
the
a
only time Brett really wavered was with Shawn Michaels.
Not a lot of sunny days going on, huh?
Yep. So he ends up beating The Rock by 1 point.
Oh.
So 132 to 131. So same average of 33.
Okay. So we have a list.
We have a list. So we have Shawn Michaels, followed by Ric Flair, followed by the Bret Hart, followed by The Rock, and then after that, it gets a little hard for me to find Jericho. I'll write the whole thing out, or the editor, I'll make him do it. But we got
just go top 5. Yeah, who's 5 now? We'll put the rest.
Okay, yeah, 5. So we have Michaels, Flair, Hart, Rock, and Jericho.
Nice. That's a solid top 5.
And the most important
No,
thing
excuse me, not Jericho, Savage. Sorry.
Gotcha. That's still solid.
Yeah, it's Savage, then Jericho.
Who's on the bottom of the list?
So coming up from the bottom, we have Hogan, and then we have Undertaker.
I rest my case. That's all I needed to know. So I knew it. I knew it. So when I did my point thing, I had Michaels 1, Flair 2, Brett 3, Rock 4. I had Jericho 5. So my list is exactly the same as our top 4.
All right. That was fun. So yeah, next episode we'll definitely be doing the post 2010 guys with the same format. I'm looking forward to it. But for now, we're going a little long, so we're going to move on to the scenario of the week. This week, so it's going to be let me do the rules first. Rules, as always, the Smarks do know the topic ahead of time. There's no discussion. There can be no repeated answers. This week, there is no instant win or instant lose. And the scenario is also kind of like last week's. I didn't really write a whole bunch of stories around it, but I do have a pretty good twist. So this one is actually courtesy of Stretch. It's kind of what I would call the slapdash tag team. But the twist is I'm not so interested in your slapdash tag team, although definitely points will be awarded to a better team. In honor of Bailey and Banks, I'm more interested in how epic their breakup is going to be. So sell me on these guys' breakup.
Oh.
I told who breaks it up? How bad is it going to be? I want this to be like a high school breakup. I want to cry. Stretch, you're the champion. 2 times, extra large. What do you got?
Yes, sir. So I actually came up with 2 different ones. I went one with WWE and one with AEW.
Getting fancy with me.
Yeah, I'll talk about them both a little bit, but I kind of want to lean on my WWE one.
You get one, and then we'll go back to your second one later.
Okay, so I'll go with my WWE one. So I wanted to focus on the women more so, since our women's tag division is lacking at the moment with, a shoddily put together tag team as the champions. Don't get me wrong, I like the tag team as the champions with Nia and Shayna, but it just proves how thin the women's tag division is. So I went with I'd say we're going to pair Miss Charlotte Flair and Liv Morgan together. We're going to make them the new age Hollywood Blondes.
All right.
We're going to have lovely Liv Morgan and courageous Charlotte Flair. They're going to be, sort of 2 semi-established names, sort of like how Pillman and Austin were. They're going to be, kind of taking over the card, ruling the roost, if you will. Maybe a couple reigns with the women's tag titles, maybe a couple singles reigns with titles here and there. But since we're focusing on breakup, as we know, the Hollywood Blondes of yesteryear, Pillman and Austin had a pretty, hellacious breakup. It ended up with Pillman pointing a gun at Austin in his own home and stuff like that. So with the breakup, I would say Charlotte would be turning heel on Liv because Charlotte has a more detestable heel persona about her. Probably turn on her in a title defense when she realizes that she can do better on her own. So I would say that Charlotte would turn heel on her, beat her down, and then they would probably have a good series of matches with Charlotte coming out on top because she does have the bigger star power. But it would give more exposure to Liv Morgan. We all know Charlotte's, an established star and everything like that. But it would sort of get 2 new names on the map and make a better established tag team rather than, just throw whoever wants to tag together.
All right. I like it. Wally, what do you got there, bud? You don't like this twist. I love it. I take pleasure in your discomfort.
I mean, I didn't pick my answer again, so.
Oh, we went to the wife, but she's also pretty good at this game. What do you got?
Well, in order for what I cross-branded, so.
That's fine.
I mean, technically, I guess I didn't cross brand now. Brock Lesnar and Marco Stunt.
Oh, ooh. I'm okay. Walk me through the breakup. I'm already intrigued.
I didn't. I'm
Don't
I'm
follow
trying
me
to.
now. There's my head's spinning for you. You gotta pull this out, buddy. Come on, you got it. All right, so Marco Stunt, in a shocking reveal, actually, brings out some of his best friends. I don't know who they are. Call them the best friends, maybe. And then, so you'd always think it's going to be Lesnar doing the betraying, but it's going to be Marco Stunt. And this whole time, Lesnar's being the big brother, and he's heartbroken that his little brother would betray him. Oh my God, I love it. You might just won that, Wally.
No, because
his
you
little
did
brother that's the age of his daughter.
you
Yeah,
did the good
whatever.
part of it. I mean, I'm gonna be honest
I got
with you.
shivers.
All I want to happen in the breakup is I want to see Brock Lesnar lawn dart Marco Stunt like as far as he can throw him. So from the ring, as far as he can throw him. I want to see him lawn dart him.
No, the lawn dart, that's not even the breakup. That's just their finisher. So, J-Bone, what do you got?
I got two answers. One
get to
probably
pick
doesn't
one.
make. Do
We'll
they have
go
to be
back to your,
wrestlers now? Or
Yes.
No time machines. This has been established.
well, no, nobody said that you have to pick
No.
wrestlers now.
The ongoing rule is no time machine, unless I say otherwise.
What about cross brands?
Cross
Yes.
brands is fine.
Cross
'cause
brands
I
is
did
fine.
that. I did it. So.
It's always the president of wrestling, so yeah.
All right, I guess I'll go with Chris Jericho and Adam Cole as a tag team.
Okay.
All right.
I did
like
so.
seeing tag
I read something that's I guess Adam Cole looked up to Chris Jericho as one of his idols. So I figured that Jericho would take him under his belt a little bit and kind of mentor him a little bit, and then their breakup. I don't know. I guess Jericho would maybe read like the Pro Wrestling Illustrated Top 500 and find that Adam Cole's ahead of him and turn on him and, out of pure jealousy.
That's good.
And turn on him. That's that's all I can think of.
I like it. That's a tough one.
Do we want to let J-Bone and I do our second answers to see who would really pull away?
Hey, sometimes I can go with the second answer, so do it.
J-Bone, you want to go first?
Yeah, but my answer, I don't have really a good breakup. I had Roman Reigns and The Rock together. Just
Wow.
being, related.
I mean, Brock could come back, sure. Why not? It's not that time machine not necessary for that one.
For my second one, I had Brian Cage and Darby Allin, sort of I hate you, you hate me, let's make a tag team type deal, because they had been feuding over the last God knows how many weeks. And together they would be a great big man, little man dynamic. So, you would have a great hot tag waiting for you regardless. You could have Cage come in and clean house, or you could have Darby with his, fast, athletic maneuvers come in and tear shit up. And I even envision their finisher being Cage slamming somebody down and then doing a standing moonsault and then rolling out of the way, and Darby coffin drops on him for the finisher.
That's good.
But is that better than a Superman punch and then counter with the people's elbow?
I mean, yes, it is.
Yeah, and then for their breakup, I would book them sort of being reluctant to team up throughout their entire time teaming together, and then I would actually have Taz come in and break them up and sort of, he's great on the mic. Both of them aren't really that fantastic on the mic, so I would have Taz sort of sow some dissension in there, and then sort of lead to them breaking up since they've always had a feud going.
Got a tough one here. Stretch, do you want to attack anybody since you're the only person who ever attacks anybody?
Well, technically, Brock Lesnar isn't a current WWE superstar. He's in contract negotiations right now, or lack thereof.
That's a technicality I'm willing to overlook.
Okay. What was J-Bone's first one? Cole and Jericho?
Yep.
Yeah.
I like that one. That's the one I like.
But as we've seen, how good of a match would that breakup match be, or the blow-off match with them, since Jericho has regressed so much in the ring?
This is true. That's a tough one.
Match of the year potential.
With
10
Jericho,
years
You really
ago,
did like your first one.
with
Stretch, a
Jericho,
lot.
with Jericho with his muffin top.
It's like, do I give it to Wally even though he did come up with the answer and I came up with the breakup? But
Why don't you
Well,
give
you're giving it to Nicole then, and you did come up with the better
I was
part
about
of
to
it.
say, why not give it to yourself?
I was actually thinking about it. I'm doing it. I'm the winner this week. First time ever. That means I will participate next week, and maybe we'll have Stretch run it for once. So
Okay.
you're okay with that there?
Yeah, that's fine.
All right,
Well,
we're doing it. I'm going as the champion with the
We might
assist from
not-
Wally. The hot tag off that one. So
I don't think we're next week. I don't think we're doing
well, that's fine. Just the next time.
the
is what
next
I
time
meant.
we do it.
That's fine.
All
I
right.
will be the judge. I'm harsh at judging.
All right, I like it. So yeah, we'll change this up a little bit so you can run it next time, and I will come in the champion with the hot tag off of Wally. So slash Wally's wife. All right. Let's go to the Wednesday War wrap-up, kind of Wednesday War for the
Zach,
shows that aired.
Once again, that was immediate too. As soon as I told her that was immediate. Not
love that answer.
hesitation, just immediate. I just never had really. I forgot to have her expound on it for me. So.
Yeah, that's a good one. And that breakup is harsh, especially when it comes the other way, the little brother being the betrayer. It's Shakespearean. Okay, let's get to it. We're running long. All right, August 26th, kind of ish, Wednesday War wrap up. So I think we could probably talk about AEW for about 2 minutes and then move on.
Yeah.
That's what I thought about it.
Awful.
Probably the worst show of the two it's the worst AEW show I've ever seen.
I agree.
And since we've started doing this podcast, it's definitely the worst show between the two.
I agree.
Yeah.
The Big Swole match was the worst match I have seen on NXT or AEW since they started going head to head. That is the worst match. It was awful. Everything about it was
botches.
terrible.
Except
It
for
was,
the
it was
dancing
Entire time
afterwards.
through every single segment, every single spot they had was a botch. It was insane.
it was garbage. I felt bad for Penelope because I think she's a better wrestler than that. So I don't know how she got stuck in that mess.
Right.
So I'm sorry, Jay. I know we're ripping on your girl, but
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, other than that, like even like the tag tournament at the start, just it felt weird.
it was weird.
I didn't know what was more shocking about it: Hangman turning on the Elite, or Nick Jackson's hairline.
Oh,
Like,
And it was
getting
like
bad.
I think
The way he
Chuck
turned
Taylor
was
got-
corny.
yeah.
Yeah, it was corny. It was stupid.
Yeah, hold his
Like,
leg. It's like,
He kind of, and like the way you played it off afterwards, it was like a dog like pissing on the rug, and then like
Yeah, the
looking
way
at
he
you
looked.
like, did I do that? Oh,
Well, he actually looked like a beat dog. Like he looks like he got like just like brainwashed by you know.
well, you can
I-
tell like as his character, like his character is so over, like being torn between the Elite and FTR, and everybody trying to be like, hey, be my friend, be on
Yeah.
our side. Like we're the ones who really care about you.
I think Chuck Taylor got hurt, like legitimately
Yes.
got hurt from the
Yeah,
best
they
friends. So
they had to rush that finish.
I think they had to change stuff, but it was still just a weird. That was the one match that night that I'm like, all right, I at least have this. And then that match disappointed me.
Yep.
So I don't know what was going on in that match.
The best thing of that show for me was Mox and MJF going head to head
Sure.
with their words.
Moxley was as good as MJF in that promo,
Yes.
I think. So
social distance like your hairline, John.
it was, I mean, MJF was clutch when he said, tell your wife I'm single or whatever.
Right.
I mean, that was as clutch as it gets, but
right.
it seemed like MJF did all the talking, but when Mox did talk, he made good points and
Yeah.
it was good.
No, it was
so
absolutely solid
Right.
all around. The only other positive note I have besides that promo was the very start of the show with Jericho coming out and just eating up the reaction from the crowd because though it's a small crowd, it's awesome to have a crowd.
and
Right.
so the main event at that, what the hell are you doing? You give 8 minutes to a tables match that
Yeah.
you've been making a big deal about. You realize, oh shit, we have 8 minutes left for this match. And that match was rushed. And then that match was really just to lead into us getting to watch Orange Cassidy run across the back of
Yeah.
the screen and pounce on Chris Jericho. So
It was a vehicle as a means to an end more so as the end itself. Like we were really thinking like, oh well shit, this tables match might be the end of the Guevara and Hardy feud, but no. Now we might see them at All Out, and we're still furthering the Cassidy and Jericho match. How long are we gonna keep doing this?
how do you get to on a show? How do you be like, oh shit, we have 8 minutes left for the main event, and that wasn't the plan. So how do you do?
8 minutes for the main event, and the main event is a big gimmick match too. Like not just for a singles match or anything,
it's
but
just,
like
the whole show start to finish was pretty bad there. JD, you got any thoughts?
it's disappointing. I don't know what AEW is doing. It's like a couple weeks ago, they're on top of their game, surpassing NXT and stuff, and all of a sudden, it's just everything's just dropped.
Yeah,
Yep.
the wheels are coming off.
Yeah, it's like they don't know what they're doing again.
Right.
All right. And speaking of 8 minutes left, I don't want to short NXT, so let's just jump over. Yeah. So Cross has to walk away from the championship.
I think
And-
this is going to be good for him in the long run. He needed a restart.
And we're getting something that we all want to see out of it. So, I mean, I
Yep.
can't complain. Like,
Yeah.
we're
Let's
getting
just jump to basically the end of the show. Let's just talk about it.
Right.
I mean,
that's
the Regal
that's-
announcing the four-way Iron
yeah.
Man match on top of it between
Unheard
Gargano,
of.
Ciampa, Finn, and Cole. Come on, get out of here.
Right.
This is match of the year potential written all over it.
Yeah.
I mean, Adam Cole called them the Mount Rushmore of NXT. That's true.
Yep.
Yeah, and thank God, honestly, for them not running head-to-head on that day, because I don't think NXT – I've said it multiple times, I don't think NXT would run an hour-long Iron Man match when they're going head-to-head with another wrestling program.
And we also got a certain guy got a belt.
Oh, my boy Breezy.
Breezango finally got
Breezango.
acknowledged
Yep,
for
Thank God.
My note for that, it says, well, first of all, it was push Breezango with 3 exclamation points, as is my way. But then after that, it's immediately in all caps. Holy shit, thank baby Jesus, about time. Exclamation points all around with multiple underlines.
And the celebration was fabulous too. So that was good. I'm really happy that Tyler Breeze has a belt finally.
Yeah.
He
Plus we
deserves
got-
it.
Long
Plus,
time coming.
Plus, what was what do we can stop saying they looked bad or looked good in a loss now? They finally
Yeah.
look good in a win.
Yeah, finally the tag team champions could be, they're going to look good in a win.
Right. And then we moved on and saw finally heel Tommaso Ciampa.
Oh, delicious. Who did he fight?
Jake Atlas, he destroyed him.
Yes. Just, my note is, here it is. Atlas is brought forward as a sacrifice to the returning Ciampa.
And I, for my notes, I put our heel Ciampa with like 4 exclamation points. R.I.P. Jake Atlas, and then I put Jake Atlas looked bad in a loss.
Yeah, actually, he did. That was kind of, I mean, again, it's a squash match, but he didn't even look good in squashing it. Like, it was,
No.
The women's match was fine at the end. It was better than the rushed shit at the end of AEW. It was not the greatest match ever, but it served a purpose.
Yeah, and I have Robert Stone. Love the librarian glasses with the chains, and then once again he gets run over by a power wheel.
Yeah. For the 3rd time, I think he's been run
least
over.
the 3rd time.
and how what's her name? Aaliyah was trying to pull the tank off of him with the refs, and it wasn't budging.
So good. I love every second. I know Wally hates the power wheels, but I love the power wheel tank. I'm not gonna lie. It's better than the full size Rusev tank. Fight me about it.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine. The Rusev tank, I don't give a shit about. So if Rusev's name's attached to it, I don't give a shit. Rusev Day, terrible.
Yep.
It's Rusev Day today, actually.
Is it really?
Every day is Rusev Day.
I know. I was being a little sarcastic. You answered me so earnestly. I felt bad. All right.
So I am voting for NXT for sure. This wasn't even close for me this week.
It's NXT all around, I think.
Get the broomsticks out.
Yep.
Yeah,
2 weeks in a row. Get the broomsticks out 2 weeks in a row.
And we didn't even touch on Swerve versus Escobar. That was a pretty damn good match too.
No, it was a good match.
It was a good match with a great heel finish.
Yeah, and the loaded mask finish is rarely used, but that was pretty damn cool. And then the
O'Reilly
UE,
Maverick. Yep.
There's dissension amongst the UE even more. O'Reilly looks like the face out of all this.
Yep.
So
Yes.
Yeah.
NXT.
So, what did Coach Joe go on this one? Did we get his opinion, or did we not even?
I did not.
We knew what was coming.
Yeah,
I was
think
just
we
curious
know.
to see if he was like, "Oh yeah, AEW."
I'll ask him. I haven't talked to him, but when I ask him, I'll ask him just out of curiosity. Because if he says anything other than NXT, I'm gonna be like, "Did you watch the same show the rest of us watched?"
All right. Do you have any parting thoughts from anybody before we move to our last 2 segments on either the shows or our proceedings?
I'm really happy that Shayna finally won a belt. Thank you, Nia Jax. Unfortunately,
With her lead weight ball and chain of a partner.
I mean, at least I guess the thing that was coolest for me is Shayna looked really strong. She basically made both of them tap out to win.
Yeah, that was cool.
So,
Never
Yep.
seen that
It
before.
was a
that
cool
was pretty
finish.
awesome.
So
Especially also using Banks as the weapon for the tap out as well.
The leverage, yeah.
And the other real quick wrestling thought, Paul Heyman and Roman Reigns is fucking gold. So
Right.
the end of SmackDown last week was the best ending of SmackDown possibly this year. Like they scripted that perfect the way they handled it. I even was okay with him coming out in the middle of the match at Payback. Everything he's doing is heel. He has it's heel. It's got heel written all over it. So,
all right, then let's go into my prognostication from the prognosticators to Rich.
We'll keep it simple. FTR is taking the tag belts at All Out, and they are going to start a program with the Young Bucks immediately after.
Damn, love it. All right, J-Bone. To anyone who likes, comments, and subscribes, what prize can't they win this week?
Swiss Army knife.
Oh, that's pretty sweet. I might like and comment, subscribe on my own podcast to get a Swiss Army knife.
That's technically multiple prizes in one.
It is. It's
can opener, a corkscrew, a knife.
Do you have the tweezers and toothpick on that one, or is it like a kind of a cheaper?
No,
one?
but I got the scissors.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
Yep. The scissors that can't even cut paper. That's amazing.
Exactly.
All right. This was a fun one. We ran. This is going to be our longest episode, probably close to an hour and a half, if I take a guess. Maybe a little longer than that.
But we were doing something important, too,
Yep.
and something different and fun. So.
Yep. And the next one's going to be probably just as long, if not longer, because it's going to be a little more fresher with the post-2010 guys. So, all right. That was fun. We'll catch you guys. Actually, we're going to be doing a special episode this week. We'll be predicting and putting some more money on the line again for the AEW show, as well as another Wednesday Night War, because somehow we felt like we fell behind somehow. So anyway, as always, if life puts you in a pin, keep kicking out that 2 count. We'll see everyone next week.
Deuces.